So today's video is actually supposed to be Kamen Rider Kronos going up against Aizen, just because they're both kind of like these main villainy type people in their different series, and they're kind of portrayed in very similar ways. But then I kind of took a look at it and I was like, it actually makes more sense to do Kamen Rider Genm versus Aizen, because they're both these immortal, absolutely unkillable, just menaces to society in both of their series. I mean, Aizen in Bleach, even after Dangai Ichigo hit him with the big fat Mugetsu and then got sealed away by Kisuke, they were just like, bro, we literally can't do anything to this guy. We can put him in jail and that's pretty much about it. And then Genm, on the other hand, it just seems like this guy can't stay dead. I mean, literally every other year it just seems like they bring this guy back. They put him down, he comes back. They put him down, he comes back. And so we'll go ahead and do this matchup between the two immortal characters from both series that I really enjoy, and we'll see who comes out on top. Now, you guys know what we do over here on the channel. We're going to go over their strength, speed, and abilities and talk about who would win this fight. If you like this type of content, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And if you're feeling particularly salty, make sure you join the Discord, which is linked down in the description down below. With that being said, since we are the Bleach Hub channel, let's go ahead and start off by talking about our boy Aizen. Now, as far as AP is concerned, it's actually really easy to go ahead and scale Aizen, since as soon as he got his 4th Ascension form, he claimed that his evolution had taken him to the point where he transcended all Hollows and Shinigami, and one of the Shinigami with one of the best feats in the verse that he would scale to at that time would be Bankai Yamamoto, who just by merely activating his Bankai and not really doing anything, just merely existing in the verse, was going to destroy the Soul Society, which at bare minimum, we know the Soul Society, as far as the realm is concerned, contains dozens of stars, meaning it would have to be multi-solar in terms of its size to contain all of those stars and the space between said stars as well. However, it obviously gets way better than this, because Aizen is actually able to somewhat affect Yuha both in his normal form and in his god state, as he's able to use Kyoka Suigetsu against Yuha, and we actually know that Aizen's ability specifically doesn't work on people that are much stronger than him, right? You have to be relative to somebody to use Kyoka Suigetsu on them, and the reason I say this is because in Can't Fear Your Own World, Tokinata actually copies Kyoka Suigetsu with his Zanpakuto, but he then informs us that it's only so broken because it's in the hands of Aizen, who can actually use it to affect all of the other people, because Tokinata is not as good with it, because he's not nearly as strong as Aizen, and so some of the captains that are just much stronger than Tokinata are just blatantly unaffected by his Kyoka Suigetsu's effects. So what this means is that we have a pretty much blatant confirmation that Aizen is somewhat relative to that god Yuha, relative enough that he's able to affect him with his abilities, because if he wasn't, then Yuha would have just shrugged his abilities off like it was nothing and it wouldn't just actually do anything. The effect would just fizzle off of him. The reason this is notable is that Yuha himself has enough power to destroy the Bleach verse as we know it, because it's stated about 7 different times that this guy is going to destroy the world of the living, Hueco Mundo, and the Soul Society, and all of the connecting realms as well, which includes things like the Dangai Precipice world, the Garganta, all of that stuff. Which would mean at bare minimum that would be baseline universal, because the definition of baseline universal is that you destroy everything within your verse, or it's going to be universal because he's actually just destroying the entirety of the Bleach verse, which would include the construct that contains the universe, which could be argued to be a 4th dimensional feat, as he'd actually be destroying the time-space continuum of that universe. So yeah, either way you slice it, it's either like baseline universal or universal plus. Pretty good for Aizen. As far as speed is concerned, we've gone over this numerous times, but there are pretty insane feats for speed when it comes to the 1000-Year Blood War arc. Most notably though, it comes from Ichigo being able to travel from the Soul Palace to the Soul Society in 12 hours. We know that Ichigo at this point in the series should at bare minimum be the speed of light, saying that like maybe he's the speed of lightning is just a blatant low ball to try to drastically reduce the speed of the characters. When in the Soul Society arc, we have blatantly relativistic feats from people like Shuhei, who is a drained lieutenant tier character at that point. Even if you wanted to say that Shikai Ichigo at full power is equal to this drained and fatigued Shuhei, with his 10 times Bankai multiplier, he would literally be the speed of light. Due to Shuhei dodging the Negacion being calced at anywhere from 5 to 10% the speed of light, it would mean Ichigo is either half or the speed of light at that point in the series, depending on which version of the calc you go for. But Yeah, this basically translates to the gap between the Soul Palace and the Soul Society being pretty massive, because you have a guy that's at bare minimum the speed of light traveling for 12 hours. That makes the gap between those places pretty massive, and then you have not only Yuha's Ash Wallen, but the Mime Hage itself both traversing that distance in like 5 seconds, and Yuha's able to react to the Mime Hage, and then Latato, who's kind of like a more mid-tier Stern Ritter probably, if we're being generous, is able to dodge Yuha's Ash Wallen Light. And this results in them being around 2 million times the speed of light. This isn't even taking into account things like Ichigo using his Bankai and his Holification on top of that, which you could then argue makes them, at bare minimum, if they're both 10 times multipliers, again, bare minimum here, you would have them being like 200 million times the speed of light. They get pretty insane. And then obviously this scales to Aizen, because that Ichigo, if he's going like full power and everything, is able to fight Yuha, who's able to react to all of his attacks and everything. Aizen's able to fight Yuha. Aizen's also able to synergize perfectly with Ichigo as they're fighting. And it doesn't seem like Aizen's not able to keep up with Ichigo, or they're out of sync or anything like that. They're pretty much able to fight perfectly in unison with one another. So to say that they don't scale to each other in terms of speed is a bit asinine. Then finally there's Aizen's actual abilities, and I mean, I alluded to one of the main reasons I'm actually making this video, and one of his more notable abilities is his immortality. Aizen is basically just unable to be killed. I mean, we've seen him get obliterated by Isshin, Kisuke, and Yoruichi, and he regenerated from that. Gin stuck a poison in his heart that just destroyed him at the cellular level. He regenerated from that. Ichigo completely evaporated him when he used Mugetsu, and then Aizen just stitched himself back together. Yuha ate him and consumed him, and then Aizen just somehow appears after that again. And then here's the thing, every time Aizen dies, quote unquote, like truly dies, the Hogyoku actually allows him to adapt to whatever he's fighting, and it continues to make him stronger and stronger. So not only is he immortal, but he has like adaptive evolution as well. Then obviously there's the fact that Aizen is a Shinigami, meaning that he is an astral being. His Zanpakuto can actually directly attack the soul of whoever he's fighting. And then you can argue that not only can it attack the soul, but then it could BFR it to a different dimension, because if he cleanses the soul that he's fighting, they get sent to the Soul Society, and then if they were a bad dude, they're getting sent to hell to deal with Hell King Jushiro, or whatever is in hell apparently, based on whatever new one-shot comic we got for Bleach. Whatever's going on over there, that's what their soul's gonna have to deal with. He also has one of the most broken Zanpakutos in Bleach that allows him to manipulate the 5 main senses that people have, and their spiritual sensory ability, as people can't even sense people while they're under Kyokasui Getsu. They can't use their natural senses to escape from its influence. And again, like everybody knows the whole shtick that Aizen's got, where he's like, I can make a flower bed look like a swamp, I can make a bumblebee look like a dragon. He pretty much had the entire Gote 13 fighting someone that looked like him but was apparently just Momo. So his illusions are pretty flawless, and the only way to really get out of them is to grab onto his Zanpakuto, but most people aren't crazy enough, unless you're Yamamoto, to let themselves get stabbed so they can test out that little theory of getting out of Kyokasui Getsu. Aizen's also a master of Kido, with the most notable Kido that's probably going to be really good for this matchup is actually going to be, ironically enough, Hien. That's because Hien is said to have a spiritual flame that burns away the existence of whatever it comes into contact with, so it's existence erasure. If he needs big AoE attacks, he's got stuff like Kurot Hitsugi, but there's a common misconception with stuff like Kurot Hitsugi. People are like, bro, it bends time and space, which almost makes me want to facepalm every time, because Aizen describes Kurot Hitsugi as a massive gravity well, and here's a little just sweet nugget of information, but gravity naturally bends space and time. That is a natural property that it already does. It'd be like if Aizen said, this fire will even burn down the tree. You're like, yes, fire does burn down trees, Aizen. Thank you for pointing that out. Personally, I just chalked it up to like maybe Kubo not really knowing a whole lot about like maybe space and gravity. Maybe not being like super into science. I have no idea why we should like just try to draw a point to that. Doesn't really make sense. Again, kind of like being like, the fire's gonna burn down the tree. That's how amazing this fire is. You're like, dog, it already does that naturally. But Kurot Hitsugi is still very good as far as like a giant AoE attack is concerned, or just kind of like bombarding your opponent, nuking them with a very powerful attack. Very, very good for all of that. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and start talking about his opponent, Kamen Rider Genm. Kamen Rider Genm is also pretty easy for me to cover, because if you were to just like look at the notes that I wrote down for him for this battle, he would seem like a meme gag character. And he kind of is. I mean, if you just look at his AP, he's at least universal with like actual feats. Because, and I quote, with God Maximum Mighty X, the space generator built into the Gashat, which is the thing he uses to transform, it says, quote, it is possible to create a special space called a game area where data can be materialized, and when the Cosmic Chronicle is started, a game area that reproduces the vast universe will be developed. It is also possible to create a new game area with the free ideas of the Transformant, such as in a different space or inside the mantle. And what this essentially means and how it's used in Kamen Rider X8 is that, yeah, he quite literally just recreates the universe and turns it into a game that he's able to freely manipulate. Because Gem's whole thing is that he is the game master. And then he can basically do whatever he wants inside of his own game. And so the highest level of that is like, well, let me just turn the entire universe into a game that is free for me to manipulate. But the funny thing is that Genm also has this weird ability with the Genm Mythology Arm, Kamen Rider Gem's arm, and I quote, he has no upper limit on performance and demonstrates combat ability according to the set value of the Transformant. And what this means is that Genm can basically make himself as strong as he wants to be. He can lower his own AP, raise his own AP, depending on who he's fighting. As in the special, when we see him using this form, the 1 billion form, he'll lower his power just so he can kind of fight different people, and then if he's getting really annoyed, he'll just go full power and absolutely one-shot them. The same thing also applies to speed, so he can kind of like quote-unquote make himself as strong and as fast as he wants. But that's also why I'm providing the at least universal thing as well, because those are really vague and we're not really going to know where we want to put him. So AP is at least universal. Speed is also pretty disgusting because as of Kamen Rider Presidents, he's able to move and Kamen Rider Kronos stops time, and then even later gains that ability to freely control time and move and stops time. As Genm finally gains the counterpart power to Hyper Muteki, which is like the invincible Kamen Rider in that series. So at least universal, infinite speed, being able to move and stops time. You could argue he has immeasurable speed because one of the things that he gets from Kamen Rider Kronos, and something that Kronos is able to do, is an ability called Restart, where he rewinds time. And it's just kind of able to vibe and exist in that rewinding time, which you could argue does give him immeasurable speed. But speaking of his other abilities, with the Mighty Almighty, which is very coincidental because he's fighting a Bleach character, and you know, the Almighty's an ability in Bleach, so I just think it's funny that we have the Almighty in Bleach, and then Kamen Rider Genm has the Mighty Almighty. Literally sounds like he's just trying to one-up Yuha at that point. But this, and I quote, the built-in stage editing device allows you to freely manipulate the concept of any event in the game area, such as time and the laws of physics, meaning that Genm, wherever he goes, reforms the universe into being his own game area, and then just can manipulate any concept he wants while he's inside said game area, which, as you can imagine, is pretty useful to be able to manipulate all concepts. He also has high tier immortality. As I alluded to, this guy has pretty much been killed in every way possible, but because of the Bugster virus that he is infected with, he is pretty much impossible to kill. I mean, he's had his soul destroyed, his existence erased, and it's now just gotten to the point that as long as the concept of a Bugster or a video game, or just a game in general exists, he will also exist as well. Speaking of that Bugster virus, Genm can actually infect others with the Bugster virus, and it's like a digital biological disease manipulation type thing. And you would think it'd be really hard to do, but no, he literally just takes his rider belt and just pokes somebody with it, and he's like, yep, now you're infected. He also infected another dude in Kamen Rider Presidents just through the internet. My man was just trying to check his email and then got infected with both Genm and Kamen Rider Chronicles, so, you know, it also might not be a one-on-one. Who knows if Chronicles coming with him. And then just some other random things he has is that he has 99 lives because, again, he's like the game master, and so he gave himself quote-unquote max lives with 99. And then with his original Kamen Rider suit, Dangerous Zombies, he became deathless. And if you don't know what that means, in Kamen Rider Gaim, every rider has like a little health bar on them to indicate how close they are to dying. If your health bar runs out, you die. Well, Genm kept getting quote-unquote death research on things that the other Kamen Riders would kill, and forcing himself to be near death a lot of the time, so that when he finally hit the end of his health bar, he actually never died, and was considered to be deathless or immortal. So he's got like normal immortality, immortality based on like a conceptual thing, immortality in the fact that he can just regenerate, immortality in the fact that he has extra lives, immortality in the fact that like his soul and stuff can't be destroyed and will continually regenerate. Just a lot of disgusting things going on with Genm over here. And this brings us to our conclusion. Who is going to win this battle? Well, I can truly say this battle is going to be going on for quite a long time, as both of these people are really hard to kill. But it's really just going to come down to the fact that Genm has the ability to manipulate all concepts, if we're being completely honest here. Because they're both relative in terms of power, both being in this universal range. Genm is a lot faster than Aizen, but it doesn't really matter because, you know, it's not like he can one-shot Aizen or anything, because Aizen's immortal, so it doesn't really matter that he's that much faster than him. And then it just kind of comes down to the fact that at the end of the day, Genm has a way to actually kill Aizen by, you know, conceptually erasing him or manipulating his concept, or just straight up infecting him with the Bugster virus and completely taking over his body in a different manner than Yuha was trying to do, because Yuha was just trying to absorb him like Majin Buu. Genm is actually using biology to actually infect and take over Aizen this way, which unfortunately is a bit different, due to one having a biological nature and the other one just being straight up absorption, as you're just trying to like shove somebody else inside of you. Pause, hey, wait. Yo. And there's just also the fact that Aizen doesn't really have anything to permanently kill Genm, right? Like, being able to attack his soul doesn't really matter because Genm has already had his soul completely erased, and then it just came back anyway. So it's really just the problem of like, we gotta get Aizen some better showings and things to actually kill more immortal people, because he just doesn't have any way to actually permanently kill Genm. Genm just has way more layers of immortality than Aizen does, and it's just a bit unfortunate for our boy. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, if you're big salty, feel free to come into the Discord so I can, you know, laugh at you for being salty at the video. Or you can just join normally if you want to like talk with other people that like Bleach and all the other weird stuff I talk on this channel, because my channel has now just become a smorgasbord of things I like. It's like there's Bleach stuff, there's Kamen Rider stuff, we got Transformers and Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just a matter of time until you start seeing some Star Wars and Bakugan stuff appearing on there, to be honest. But yeah, with all that being said, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I'm going to go ahead and get out of here and hopefully not take a 2-week hiatus this time. Peace.